whether it be my business that I've been building or this talk, whenever I've given talks in the past, usually at vending events, it happens a little bit more organically because I've got a passing crowd. But the title of today's talk is going to be Witchcraft is, or Making a Case for Witchcraft in the Public Eye. All right, well, among the five of you, what do you do for a living?
I am a special education teacher at an elementary school.
What about yourself? What do you do for a living?
Glorified cashier.
Nice. And what do you do in life?
Are you talking actually make money or actually
Pick something about yourself that defines you, your job, anything.
24 hours a day, I'm always there to help people.
All right, so
People
you're helping
drift into my
others.
life when they need the help. They drift out when they don't.
All right, so let's say we got your role. There are three people in the world right now who each have your role. What's the commonality of wonder? For the sake of this talk, let's say that all of them just happen to be witches. Some people might know it, but some people likely do not. Because unbeknownst to a lot of people, and in the face of a lot of misteachings and misunderstandings, witches are around us every day, and by extension, witchcraft. Now, you might see it online, different memes saying, oh, there's no such thing as a bad witch, there's no such thing as a good witch, depending on what side of the issues that we're talking about. But I posit this: witchcraft itself is not evil, and the vast majority of witches are not evil. Evil in my mindset is a truly deep, dark extension of the basis form of a human being's life. That's what evil is, in my opinion. Witchcraft has classically been defined, as most of you might know, maybe perhaps not, the raising or the gathering of energy directed outwards toward a desired outcome. We talked earlier, about this. Energy itself is not evil. However, because we know that evil exists in life and in the world, we see every day, unfortunately, politics, faith, religion, the medical services, evil exists. We can't get around it. However, evil is an act and a choice. It has nothing to do with witchcraft. So let's say that somebody's in a church praying, or let's say a doctor is using their training to heal. Well, we also know that people being people, humans being human, sometimes prayer can be used to harm, depending on somebody's state of mind and their heart condition. We know that doctors have been sued and taken to court and other things for the misuse of their gifts. So it is with witchcraft. Witchcraft is a gift. Witchcraft is a gift. Witchcraft has been around for thousands of years. History proves this. We see witchcraft in the far reaches of China, of all places. We know we have the Santeria practitioners of the Latin Americas. We know that we've got the Celtic practitioners. Did you know? Here's one for you. Celtic practices have been dated back 5,000 years or more. Go to Ireland, go to Newgrange sometime, and walk around Newgrange. You'll see all kinds of paganality all around you, and because of your connection that we spoke earlier, you'll feel the magic of Ireland and the Celtic witchcraft. I can guarantee you that much. So let's say right now, somebody were to come up to me and say, witchcraft is evil. Then I would ask, well, no, I'm not always a good witch. But are you always a good human? Whenever I ask that at my events, for example, it stops people cold, because now I'm taking them from their presumptions and their assumptions, and I'm helping them to think. Think in a more humanistic, everyday, simple mindset. Because, especially for practitioners, you've probably been there, especially in the Bible Belt yourself. Mm-hmm. It's not about fighting one faith or one mindset or one belief system or another. It's taking time to open up the table of conversation, to invite people in, to have a real heart-to-heart chat. Real quickly, because we had a chat earlier, what has it been like you being a practicing witch who's lived in the South, if I may ask?
I definitely would consider myself having been in sort of like in hiding.
In the broom closet, as we say.
Yes. So a lot of my faith was circling around the Christian church,
Okay.
because it's what made sense to me. I had access to the Bible, so I could use the Bible for my work and a lot of stuff.
See, it's funny, isn't it? Because among the Wiccan crowd especially, some of them have called the Bible a book of spells. Because any book, any word on paper has the potential to be a spell. The only difference between a paragraph on a page and a spell is what was the intent and the passion that you put behind it. Right?
When you recite it, how many people have recited scriptures in the Bible, specific verses, and with the belief that it wards off evil, and it's done just that for them?
Exactly.
So
Because
it's no different than a book of spells. It's the
precisely.
Christian book of spells, to be very specific.
Actually, yes. And even because you mentioned Judaism earlier, you might know this, and somebody else might know this. The Jewish mysticism practice of Kabbalah has actually been viewed as Judaic witchcraft because, again, it's a bunch of mystics serving their God, their version of the divine. And one of my favorite parts, by the way, I'm going to sidetrack. Kabbalah itself actually teaches and underscores the value of the balance of the masculine and the feminine. In fact, in the Hebrew, Shaddai, Shad, has to do with breast and nourishment in a safe place. Isn't that fun for
Well,
you?
what about dying? What does that translate to?
Well, I'm not. SHAD, Shad, has to do with breast, and then I think the I is like a qualifier, or actually that might be close to Adonai, like Shad I Adonai, I believe is what a Jewish friend taught me one time. Accurate? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your help, by the way. From the wings, we have my assistant. Thank you. So again, this idea that witchcraft is evil has been an injustice. It has been used to weaponize one faith against another, unfortunately, groups of people against another, unfortunately, when, again, it's all energy at the end of the day anyway. There's no more difference between, say, me casting a spell or using nature energy or Reiki, as some of you might know it, or teaching folks about the craft or making them smile by having a great interaction, than there is a Christian praying for somebody to be healed, lighting a candle, a doctor, whether the holistic or Western medicine, using their skills, a shopkeeper reaching out to the public to make their day, whether you practice the craft or not.
There's a little bit better.
There's no difference except for the label and how it's being used. Witchcraft is a craft being used by witches. And again, earlier as I stated, witchcraft unto itself does not have any evil in it because it's just an application of energy over the course of many centuries. The only evil you're going to find is in the blackness or lightness of somebody's heart. That's all there is to it, really. Right.
What is your opinion on working spells versus a spiritualist? Two halves of the same coin.
I believe it's two halves of the same coin, and I think perhaps the critical difference between someone who's just a flat-out spiritualist is they might be subconsciously working spells just as an extension of the spiritual practices. Matter of fact, today I saw on Facebook that, and again, there are different theories about this in the community, of course, but one pervasive theory is the idea that once a person steps fully into their power, they won't so much be casting spells anymore because just the simple act of their will be enough. But I like to call that the silent spell of the heart. For example, one working, again, in defense of witchcraft not being evil, we see sigils every day. Sigils, for those who may not be aware of what they are, of course, today everybody is, yours is a sigil. You have a desire or an intent etched into a subconscious sign, an artistic expression of your soul. That's why I call my sigils, by the way. So, and as in it, you put it on the back of a compass. So, sigil craft, for example. Sigil craft. Whenever somebody weaves a sign of artwork, they are casting a spell. McDonald's, the Nike swoosh, anything that is a symbol that evokes a desired response or reaction is in fact a sigil. Now, for my sake in the story of this tale, because I'm a Scottish witchcraft practitioner, we call sigils, for the plural, Seilachon. Seilachon is the Scottish Gaelic terminology for sigils. Sigil comes from the Latin word sigillum, which means a seal. So we are taking our will, our desire, our dreams, our hopes, our prayers, our wishes. The Christian cross is a sigil. The Star of David is a sigil. Norse paganism symbols are sigils. Are they evil?
No.
No.
Why not?
Because a symbol is a symbol. It's intent that is required for something to be good or evil.
Nothing more, nothing less. Now, I mentioned history a little while back. And that's partly why I'm here today, is to undo history. History, for good or for ill, paints a pretty big picture. And sometimes it's like a tattoo. It etches itself into the tapestry of history, and it's repeated time and time again. The more that it's spoken about, the spell of history, the imagery of history. Thanks to history, unfortunately, we've got a lot of hard work ahead of us. And again, I'm so grateful that I'm in front of a bunch of spiritualists and pagans and practitioners. Here's my plea to everybody in this room. On the one hand, I believe in love and light because a gentle answer does turn away wrath. Unfortunately, history has not given us even so much the privilege of a gentle answer, because the minute that you hear that you practice witchcraft, or you're a witch, spiritualist, Norse pagan, whatever you practice, or whatever, Wiccan? Eclectic?
Yeah.
Good enough. I like that. Same. Fun fact about Scottish witchcraft, real quick, is Scottish witchcraft is both eclectic and its own thing at the exact same time. So, because in Scottish witchcraft, we overlap a lot of animism. We overlap a lot of hedgecraft, greencraft, and hearthcraft. They all kind of combine together into the weird cauldron pool of things. So it makes life interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking.
that's right, you mentioned that, didn't you? Real quickly, just for the sake of everybody gathered. In brief, what has your own Wiccan journey been like, and what have you faced and or overcome as a result of being Wiccan?
I've learned more about my family than I ever learned in a long time. We don't exactly see, I chose the other path, even though it runs deep in my family. But when my great-grandmother passed away, she was known as one of the most powerful high priestess. She was the one that followed it, and when my mother's grandmother passed away, she was born on Halloween, and she died on Halloween back in 2012. She was 99 years old.
During the season of Samhain.
Yep.
Or as we say in the Gaelic practices, Samhain. Aye.
She taught me a lot when I would go down to Ohio. As a kid, I learned at the age of 16 what I actually was. I knew I was different. And my mother doesn't like talking about it because her mother, which is the daughter of my great-grandmother,
Aye.
which now she's slowly going,
Does happen.
but she didn't like the idea of following that path because she thought it was evil, when in reality, it's a matter of how you look at the situation. Everybody seems to think witches are evil,
Aye.
when in reality, it's a choice.
Somewhere initially, but it's mostly propaganda.
My meaning is, you could either be evil or you can be good. I look at the light.
See, I, for those who have seen Harry Potter in the room, Professor Slughorn said it best when he was having that interaction with a young, certain dark wizard, right? Where, you know, the future Voldemort comes to Professor Slughorn, says, Professor Slughorn, I came across a odd bit of magic. And Slughorn said, you know, listen, I see both light and dark, good and evil, but I tend towards the light. Now, myself, because I'm a Scottish witchcraft practitioner, I consider myself grey or in the middle, because that ancient Highlands or Celtic Gaelic practice saw nature as a balance. Now, wouldn't it be terribly foolish for anybody to go out on a thunderstormy day like we had this week and go, you know what? This is just evil. No, it's not, because it's just doing its job. Nature is simply existing as it was created to be, whether you believe in the scientific physical forces or the spiritual forces. I myself, because my name is Stoirme, it means of or belonging to a storm. I believe in the spirits of the weather. I talk to the weather all the time. And they listen, and we talk to each other, and we answer each other. And sometimes I freak people out when I start doing my breath work, and I start syncing my breath with the winds of a storm, and they actually begin responding. Now see, Wiccans tend to be generally love and light, if I'm correct? Because they walk with the white magic and things of that nature, but Wiccans are not afraid to defend themselves.
No.
It's just how they do
I'm
it.
an Egyptian witch. That's the thing.
Now, I'm curious, what's it like to incorporate some of the Egyptian practices into your practice real quickly, if I may ask?
See, the dialects, now they're a little different compared to what he follows. It's a little different when you follow the Book of the Dead and you don't open it. Yes, I may own it, but it doesn't mean that I open the book.
It's just there to help anchor your practice as you do whatever you do.
I only get it because after my father's father passed away,
Aye.
that's where it comes from on both sides. My mother's and father's, it follows in between. My father's side's the Middle Eastern. I always followed the Middle Eastern side.
Aye.
It's a little bit darker,
Mhm.
but at the same time, you can turn it into something positive. That's the difference.
I'm so grateful that you mentioned that because I think, let's see here, just sake of curiosity because it's been so fluid. We've got about 15 minutes left. May I bounce off the point that you just made?
Go ahead.
I think, and again, this is one of my things that I teach people at my events that I'll be using in one of my future books that I'm currently writing, by the way, at the same time. Witchcraft is also a call to take whatever you currently have in your life and to change it.
Mhm.
So again, witchcraft being energy, witchcraft being a practice, witchcraft being a craft where you create, you're taking something and you're turning it into something else.
Transmutation.
Mm-hmm.
Alchemy.
Exactly.
I've been seeing more and more posts on social media about alchemy, actually. This idea, and even though witches are not alchemists by title, every human being, whether you're a witch, an alchemist, a Wiccan, pagan, whatever you are, we all not only have the ability, the capacity, but I dare say we have a, would I be wrong in saying that we have a responsibility or a charge as we walk through this life to change whatever comes our way?
Depends if it needs changing or if it's perfect the way it is.
And now that takes wisdom, doesn't it?
It does. The wisdom is gained through your life, through your journey.
Gratefulness.
And gratefulness.
I follow the moon.
So you serve the moon. You serve the moon. Nice. May I ask what? Just ever so briefly, Chris. What do you do in your eclectic practice?
I've just been studying different theologies and religions since I was younger.
Omnist.
Yeah.
Hi.
Since I was like 12 or 13, I think I first started studying Wicca, Buddhism. Grew up Catholic and Lutheran.
You're welcome.
And then
The whole mix.
Yeah, I think religion's beautiful.
It does have its beauty, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. People are afraid to talk about it, but I think as far as Wiccans or witches or pagans go, I think it's a spectrum. I think there's as many different types and beliefs as there are people practicing.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more with you on that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Tell me what you feel.
Well, that would be the desert rose selenite. And selenite is named after the goddess Selene, and she's a goddess of the moon. And
The gemstone is less important than what's in it. Although now I know, fully understand why I chose that one. I didn't realize it at first.
this has an essence of spirit.
Mm-mm.
That's what I'm picking up.
More specifically, part of someone's spirit.
One of your ancestors?
No, part of the spirit.
So part of the spirit.
As part of my spirit in it. The energy you're feeling is part of my spirit.
So you've bound part of yourself to that stone. So it acts as a soul or spirit anchor for you.
Yes and no.
Explain
It's
that.
an easier way because of what my energy is. It is clear. Source of everything that comes, source of all energy.
I like that.
Also the most potent.
Because it
Using this type of energy is like splitting an atom.
because it
All of
comes,
that released from that tiny little fragment.
because it comes from you too, so it's in its purest form.
Mhm. Also, I use this primarily for healing.
I can see that because the moon has healing abilities. All right then, what do you say we bring this to conclusion then? So, it's been an absolute pleasure seeing such a diverse spectrum of people here today. We've got two lovely ladies who were brought together from two different walks of life. We've got a spiritualist, we've got the Wiccan, we've got the Norse pagan, we've got the eclectic, we've got the Scottish witch here. And I think all of us are well equipped to go out to the world and be good representatives of each of our practices. I think as long as we continue to stand up for ourselves, but do so respectfully, I believe that those who are meant to hear our perspectives of our practices will be the ones that we're going to touch. And I do believe over the course of time, we'll be able to push back against what history has done or not done. We will be able to push back against even the unfortunate rise in South Carolina of the local church pushing back against people who were just minding their own business. And for myself, I'll say this, because I mentioned that I'm a great practitioner. I'm not going to pick a fight, but I'm not afraid to end one. Each and every one of us, even if we practice in the light, we can still turn on the light bright enough to blind people so they'll leave us alone if need be. And even then, and you bring to mind a biblical story that I recall about the famous Apostle Paul, where he was so blinded by light, that knocked him flat on the ground and it humbled him. The road to Damascus story that Christianity is so fond of teaching about. See, for my sake, that was some manifestation of the divine. I don't call it God necessarily because I don't follow that path. And in Celtic paganism, in Celtic craft, old Celtic craft, not new paganism, we see the divine or the different deities as extremely potent and powerful manifestations of nature itself. We see them as unique people, beings, entities. But like you and I and all of us together, we're still interwoven into the fabric of nature itself. And because we are, we have the potent ability to impact lives for the better. Any more questions, points? Anything? I had the divination. At one point, I'll be breaking out my pendulum and I'll be connecting with somebody. You'll see how that works.
I know.
I'm still learning mine.
I don't recommend anyone start my path. I've been on it a long time.
Well, enumerate a little bit, if you feel comfortable.
I walk the darkness to defend the light.
And so people actually do that. I personally have seen plenty of examples of this world where we have to have our spiritual bouncers and enforcers, where because they've sat down with their
Explain why we
demons,
fit together.
they've spoken with their demons, they learned their names, and instead of seeing the trauma, the disease, the hate, the bitterness, the generational curses, like I was telling these ladies, when I reclaimed my birth-given name of Scott, I told you that I had kicked it away because I had a lot of ick attached to it. But one of the most powerful things I've ever done in my life was because my Scottish kin called me to take on, my living kin and my spiritual Scottish kin both called me to take on our family name of MacRae. I took back the name Scott because the darkness I came through for my own self, I've learned to harness those lessons so that I can help people even more effectively. And then, of course, I took on the name Stoirme because it embraced all the storms I've been through in life, as well as the storms that I've enjoyed. So,
Including the ones yet to be.
beautifully spoken.
I go by Luna.
By Luna.
Luna.
Aye. So we've got the Black Knight of the community, and it's more than just a flesh wound, by the way.
I know. Trust me, I know.
And we've got the light working Wiccan, we've got the spiritualist, and we have the Southern Witch who has Appalachian roots. We've got the herbalist who's coming to her own power. I could have not asked for a better audience for this talk. It was a bit disjointed at times, but I love how things just kind of popcorned all over the place. Did everybody like this gathering today? I think I'll be looking forward to doing more work here. The shop draws some of the finest people around.
I gave you my word I'd be here.
Well, if not physically, in spirit at least. But we'll give you plenty of notice.
As long as I have notice and I got the gas money, I got no problem.
Actually,
Adjust my schedule and I'll be here.
Sounds
That gives
good
me
for
an
me.
idea.
We'll talk.
If I get the heads up, I can come with them.
And I'll be here.
Looking forward to it. How about you ladies? Whatever work done, and of course outside of the shop, I'll be looking forward to working with you and
Of course.
everything like that.
Absolutely.
My lady Jennifer, even though she doesn't consider herself a witch, she was drawn to the Wiccan path a lot, and it shows in her nature and everything like that. She's fiery, but in the kindest way,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And, so, all right, moving to the next phase. For those who are ready and willing and have some coin to put in the cauldron, and even if you don't, you can still work with me, but I'm going to turn this table around and get yourselves comfortable however you like. I'm going to do some divination work.
Would you like help moving the table?
Fortunately, I picked this little beauty up at Home Depot just yesterday. This is the sweetest little table that I could have never expected to get. It was so beautiful.
Perfectly sized for here.
It fits the cloth nicely anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right, this I call my traveling office because it has everything in it that I need to practice what I do. Funny thing about this hand, this is an incense holder of all things that I got from a Five Below several years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and my pendulums only tend to prefer this hand.
That is ironic.
No other surface will they ever respond to. Figure that one out for you.
Yep.
The craft shouldn't be behind a paywall.
See, this is partly why when you ask what the wands were, this is also why I've been drawn to embrace the Scottish path over the past many years, because even Scottish witches, the village witch,
Yep.
as it were, even if they may not have been paid in hard coin, the community recognized their worth, they recognized the community's worth, and by me taking care of people, people always take care of me. Now, in today's society, of course, the coin helps us. Money is not important except for the fact that it's a vehicle for exchange. And so when I create these wands, for example, by not taking the extra time to put the embellishments, the wires, the crystals, I'm also doing the community a spiritual service by making the craft and healing more accessible. Like my sessions, when I would ever be at an event, I would put a little sign up that said, got 5 minutes, $5 for a quick simple session. That would draw people in. It made it clear that it was affordable. Up to date, I don't charge more than $45 for an entire hour. People are encouraging me to go up to about 54. I'm playing with it. And I am also putting together what I like to call Brigade's bundle, because for about like 75 to 100, you're going to get the full session. You're going to get a sigil. You're going to get a spell, and you're going to get the session notes. The whole freaking package. I'm also working on a payment option called Witch on Retainer Deposit. I give you my word that not only are you buying the thing or service, but for that retainer, you now get a little bit more premium of my time if you have questions or comments, or you want a little bit more of a teaching opportunity. Not much, but again, because it's a retainer, that is our spiritual bond that you can come to me in a special way beyond just a customer walking in and buying something. Because I want to keep it as affordable and as accessible as I possibly can. I'm here to make a living. This is my trade. But I'm not going to be busting people when they need help the most. Because I would be in violation of my trade, my heritage, and my spiritual path. Oh, by the way, I have feathers. I will be making my own ink, selling my own writing supplies. Why? Because again, I think people need to connect with themselves more in the craft world. I think whenever we get sucked into computers and social media and everything else.
Propane makes a lovely ink.
What does?
Propane.
Yes. And it's been used for centuries actually as a favorite sort of.
Oh, me too, baby.
So the way that one of my my sacred guide sessions works, and yes, they're called sacred guide sessions because, again, Scottish witchcraft honors the spiritual world heavily, whether it be the rock, the tree, the moss, the river, the stone, the clouds, and like I was explaining to these two ladies earlier, sometimes say when I'm doing crystal casting, that crystal cast, I'm either going to be tuning into the spirits of the stones themselves, or the spirit world will speak through those crystals, as an example. Because everything has a spirit, and because it has a spirit, it has a voice, which means everything can speak to us if we but listen. That's just all there is to it. And when I open a session, I usually will ask somebody, what brings you to me today? So, like, for example, would you be interested in trying this out?
Sure.
All right. Step up if you're comfortable doing so.
This is the point where things are personal and I will turn it off.